Hello, it's Brad, Laurie, your blockchain Brad, and today we're speaking specifically about the Ferrum Network, and we have Ian on the channel right now. He's the COO, and he's here to give us an update and insight into everything that Ferrum have been doing of late. Mate, thank you very much for your time.
Brad, thank you so much to be here. It's great to be back.
Likewise, mate. Now, for those who are wondering, this is entirely free for all viewers. The idea is to provide you with key information about startups in the blockchain space, and certainly Ian is one who can provide that as being one of the key members of the team of the Ferrum Network. Now, Ian, you as the COO, you're privy to a lot of things going on. Ferrum Network itself is known as the blockchain-based financial technology of emerging markets. That's a mouthful. Talk us through this in terms of what it means to represent Ferrum.
Sure. So we recently actually changed the slogan. We wanted to highlight a couple things with the new slogan. So for one, our technology is all about. It's really a fintech. It's really a fintech play.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean? We're basically building products that improves people's financial lives, and a lot of the technology we build is based on the blockchain.
Got it.
Right?
Now, mate, in the context of DeFi, because I'm hearing nuances of that, obviously there's a connection too with the ERC20. How do you see the DeFi movement, and where do you fit in that context?
Sure. So it's funny, actually. I mean, we've been talking financial technology and fintech within the blockchain space really before the DeFi trend became trendy. I think it's very promising. I think it's actually probably one of the better use cases for blockchain technology. Is interesting as gambling and gaming and all those other sort of sectors can be. I think the way we can improve most people's lives through this technology is within the financial sector. So, for us, we're not Ethereum based per se. So we're not really DeFi in the way I see the word being defined now.
Right.
But we do have a fintech product in Africa that does a lot for people from a financial standpoint. So I guess you'd call us old school DeFi maybe.
Got it. Okay. Now, hearing product also is interesting because when we hear products, we also assume there's technology that underpins that quality product. So let's talk about that in the context of Ferrum for a moment. For those who perhaps don't know a lot about what Ferrum is, can you just remind us, update us on, firstly, what the products are, what the tech is, what you fundamentally do, and what the premise is and the agenda of the Ferrum Network?
Sure. So Ferrum Network can really be thought of as two interconnected components. You have a DAG-based interoperability network, which I can sort of explain further. But then you have the products that exist on top of that network. So you have we launched a product in Africa called Kudi Exchange. This is you can sort of think of this product as like Coinbase plus Venmo or PayPal.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a wallet and exchange component where you can buy and sell Bitcoin, and then you can also send fiat currencies instantly for no fees. And there's also merchant service in the app and some other unique financial technology within it. And we're building out other products that will exist on top of our network as well. Upcoming, we have a wallet called Unifier wallet, which is a non-custodial wallet with some unique security features. We have a cold storage application called Sub-Zero. So we have a host of products that we're building that will exist on top of the network. And we did this because we looked around and saw a lot of other projects building networks, which is great. And they have a lot of interesting technology out there. But until someone's using that network, it doesn't have a lot of value. So we thought, why not sort of flip this on its head, build useful products, acquire users to the products, and then migrate those products onto a network, thereby providing utility for the network and the token.
And it makes a lot of sense doing that sort of back mapping from utility and from real applications. Even Mike Dudas from The Block recently tweeted something to the effect of perhaps things are slightly backwards in the way we approach, the sequence of development to get to that point, that endpoint of applications. So let's talk about that more so today, because when we last spoke, it was all about that core technology which you have been building with your team, especially those who are the engineers of the Ferrum technology. They have the clear mechanisms built in. The blockchain infrastructure is there. But what we care about, I guess, as users is the benefits, the efficiency, the productivity, the real value in terms of utility. So let's explore that in terms of the products in more detail. So we know that we can get a bang for our buck when it comes to interacting with the Ferrum network.
Sure. So I'm glad you asked, because utility is something we think is really missing from the space. Something we're striving to get. I mean, we're still a relatively young project, but we've, I think, managed to construct some early, middle, and then later utilities, which I'm happy to explain. So shortly after our public sale raise, we launched something called the Token Bridge, which allows you to swap back and forth from ERC to BEP2 Ferrum. This process requires a bit of Ferrum token to complete that transaction. So you can call this an example of an early utility. We also have something called social mining, which basically allows our community to be rewarded for their value-added contributions, and they're rewarded in Ferrum token. You could sort of maybe squeeze that in the utility standpoint. It's a use of the token. Upcoming, we have staking, which we're launching actually this week, the week of the 20th of November. And this, you'll be able to hold the Ferrum token and receive rewards. So you can sort of set a utility. But the primary utility comes when we release the mainnet, which will be in 2020. And then that will effectively mean that our products will be powered by the Ferrum token and require that the token be spent and burned similar to Ethereum gas. And actually, I forgot one other utility, which is coming even sooner, and that's within the Kudi Exchange application.
Okay.
So we'll be adding Ferrum token to the app as part of the Kudi rebrand, which is coming up. And this will not only allow our users to buy and sell Ferrum with fiat currency like they do now, they can do with Bitcoin, but it also allows us to use Ferrum as a rewards token to reward our users for using the app at merchants or for sending money around or other sort of rewards. And then those rewards can actually be redeemed for Naira.
Wow. So that almost relates a little bit to the social mining agenda, in that there's that incentive structure built in. But the difference is it's not, you're not rewarded in tokens for actual work as in social mining, but more so just in utilizing the Kudi Exchange. You can be rewarded in your token and then convert that into their local currency, all their local fiat. So that's quite powerful when you consider that, at the end of the day, people are thinking not just about use case, but they're also thinking about money. The power of trying to effect better outcomes by having a more reliable, transfer of funds into something that they deem as perhaps more stable in some instances, or in another as more of an investment. It really depends. But certainly in Nigeria, for example, there are a lot of money problems. So it gives them a lot of choice when they can suddenly access an exchange like Kudi Exchange to then have options of assets before them 24/7.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're really excited to roll that feature out. I mean, one thing we've learned from the past 6 months of being in that market is that people, for them to get excited about a product and want to use it, there has to be some clear benefit to it, aside from just the technology being, maybe superior to the competitor.
Exactly.
Right? So one of the ways we tackle that is with really aggressive in-person marketing. Signing up people for the product face to face, going to merchants door to door. That's been of great help to us. But still, they want to see a little bit like, how else can I benefit from this? And because of the close ties between Ferrum and Kudi, a lot of the users have gotten wind of the Ferrum token. They've seen it perform nicely, and so they've been asking, can we get access to this? And so not only can it be an investment for them, but we can also offer to them as a reward, which they can either keep, continue to speculate on it from an investment standpoint, or they can redeem it for real fiat currency. So
Mm.
I'm excited to roll that out. I think it's going to open up a lot of possibilities for us, not just from a utility standpoint, but from a growth standpoint for the app, which in turn sort of also feeds the utility. So I'm hoping it does become sort of a virtuous cycle.
Right, and it does seem also, Ian, that these strategies, like you're mentioning with the utility built into the Kudi Exchange and the social mining, they seem to be almost utility slash payment geared for incentivization as you move towards that fundamental utility of mainnet or post mainnet. So, what are your thoughts on that? Once you have that mainnet released and you have that operational sort of technology in motion, you know, and it really has the potential to build out from there. What do you expect in terms of the confluence of these different verticals for utility as it moves and drives towards 2020?
Yeah, well, I don't think we ever want to abandon prior utilities. So, I mean, even these early utilities, the token bridge, for instance, or social mining, staking. When the mainnet comes out, I don't think we don't want to jettison any of that. But I think the mainnet provides a lot more unique things that we can do when it comes to the token. The most important of which is every transaction on the Ferrum network. So whether that's someone sending Naira to another user using the Kudi Exchange, or whether they're depositing an asset from say MetaMask into the Unifier wallet, which will be coming out soon. These will all require a bit of Ferrum as gas of that transaction. The unique thing about it is that because Ferrum runs on a DAG, not a traditional blockchain, there are no miners. So the token, instead of being sort of given to the miners, the gas being given to the miners, it's actually burned. So there's a deflationary element to the network that I think really ties together. So we're able to tie together the actual usage of the network to the value of the token in a way I think that hasn't really been explored or done in many cases before.
Right.
And I think the sky's the limit with the products we have coming out and with the mainnet coming. So I'm really excited to see where we can take it.
Yeah, and mate, it's interesting also because there are some months still between now and when the mainnet's released, and often we see that these key drivers of value are some of these sort of preemptive moves with, for example, staking, with the other things you built in. So clearly that would explain also some of the price movement. If we can talk about that for a moment, you have had substantial interest in the token. We can see that in just in the last few days, for example. Is this because, that you did the metrics right? I mean, what's causing all of this attention and this change in price?
Oh, wow. If I knew the precise cause of this, I don't know, I'd be a lot wealthier than I am. But no, I think it's a confluence of factors coming together, and I want to give my team credit, our advisors credit, everyone in the community who's been stuck with us really through the thick and the thin, and is working hard to promote Ferrum as we continue to grow. So I mean, it's really a true group effort. But I think a few things came together. One, we announced the release of our staking, which is going to be really unique. I really think it could end up being a game changer for not just Ferrum, but it could be used for other projects, other communities. It's really a pretty incredible tool. And you combine this with a very aggressive marketing campaign we've engaged with for the past few weeks, with working with influencers like yourself, with the team doing basically nonstop AMAs in communities from major well-known communities to even fringe communities in countries like Vietnam. I mean, we're really not leaving any stones unturned. And the third thing is people have been seeing the progress on Kudi Exchange. We actually last week announced a big breakthrough we had with the product. We added a feature which is effectively a one-click bank account. We partnered with one of the major banks in Nigeria called Providus. This allowed us to provide all of our Kudi users with a bank account with Providus, and that enables instant fiat deposits and withdrawals. So I mean, that's there's a lot happening on the development front, the marketing front, it's all coming together, I think, and finally people have woken up to Ferrum. And of course, the token metrics have a lot to do with it. We only raised a little bit. All the investor unlocks are done. The bounty unlocks are done. I think so. People, we're sort of we're waiting by the sidelines, waiting for these things to end,
Right.
and are now coming in, and everyone's making, it's great because when someone comes in, they talk about it, and sort of the word spreads, and it's this beautiful cascading effect.
Right.
Challenge for us is we keep it going.
Right. And mate, you raise a really interesting point about the majority of these tokens, or if not all now, are released into the wider ecosystem, and any risks of significant dumping have now passed. With regard to any of the parties who are the early investors could exercise their right, as we saw, in those traditional models of IPO. There's every reason why they can exercise their rights, I suppose, based on the model you guys decide as the team when those lockups are then released in those tranches. So now, for the most part, that's happened. Surely that must free up the means for utility in an environment where arguably there's greater uptake and interest in crypto than anywhere else on earth, and I mean Africa. So I wanted to talk to you a bit more about that. How important has it been to have that fortune or that fortuitous scenario that emerged initially with Ferrum Network to start to work with Africa to now play out as something that is genuinely supported by the interests of the people beyond SOVs, beyond store of value, and move into these mediums of exchange that are happening?
Well, I want to bring up a quote that's not ascribed to me, but to someone close to the project, and he often says to me, not Africa needs crypto, but crypto needs Africa. And by this we mean, this is like Africa is a big place. So I want to just focus on Nigeria and West Africa, where we're most familiar.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a country where since 2013, their fiat currency, the naira, has lost 50% of its value.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not unusual for these massive fluctuations in the value of their currency to occur. And so when a technology comes along that's deflationary, store of value, it can act as a medium of exchange, can really be sound money, people see the value in it. So it's been a tremendous opportunity for us to work there. It's been a great honor to work there. It's been humbling experience to be dealing with customers there and trying to solve their problems.
Mm-hmm.
But we have a long way to go. There's still a lot of challenges. I mean, like anywhere else, the interest in cryptocurrencies and blockchain waxes and wanes with the price.
It really does.
We've been in a 2-year bear market as far as I'm concerned. Maybe with a little uptick in June we had, but for the most part, people, the interest, the mania is gone. I mean, so we've had to address this by focusing on really educating people one by one,
right,
on the value of this new technology, how it can improve their lives,
mm-hmm.
demonstrating it within the application, and really just getting one user at a time. That's what it takes.
Mm.
So it's been a great experience. It's been absolutely humbling. We got a long way to go, though, that's for sure.
Right, and in with respects to Ethereum, I wanted to try and understand perhaps the vision of Ferrum Network, because you alluded to products, coming, and clearly that's going to be, something that does continue to expand the broader network itself. Now, we saw the likes of Ethereum also do this, where they have now this scenario of an ever expensive, very replete network with ETH driving, or being the fuel for its entire ecosystem. So with regard to smart contracts and applications, and obviously that question mark of whether or not there's even a semblance of money, with regard to the way in which this ETH fuels the whole eco. So is that something that you think could happen with regard to Ferrum as it evolves? Do you think that Ferrum utility token could actually morph into something that significant and scale significantly more as you start to prove yourselves with more products and more applications?
Yeah, that's certainly the vision, I think, when it comes to the token. The primary difference between Ferrum and many other projects, we never first of all, we never claimed to be an Ethereum killer or any sort of thing like that.
Right.
I think a lot of projects took the approach of Ethereum, which is, okay, we build excellent technology. We have this decentralized network, and other people will inevitably build on top of it, and they'll write smart contracts, and they'll start using it, and it's going to be this this incredible new thing. It's going to be so much faster and more scalable. I don't know if it's played out that way. It seems to me Ethereum is still the #1 smart contract platform.
It's certainly one of the.
But we're not. We took the approach of, let's build these products. Let's make sure that they're valuable. Let's not rely on other people to build on top of the network. We'll do it ourselves and bring utility that way. So that's what we'll see.
And mate, one thing that does perhaps distinguish you with Ethereum, for example, is the depth of the order books. I mean, the extent of liquidity, for example, for Ethereum. Now, is that something? Something of a challenge for you? I imagine it would be in this market, because liquidity is king essentially. So, what are the strategies to try and build up that liquidity? Is it the strategy you've employed for marketing to get more users? Is that the way in which you're sort of back mapping from the products once again?
So yeah, certainly liquidity from the token standpoint is a chief concern of ours and probably many other low cap projects. We're definitely not waiting until Ferrum is being spent and burned, like ETH is being spent as gas. We're trying to tackle the issues sooner. I think the best way to do it is to bring new investors on board, right, and bring new traders on board and get people excited about Ferrum. And I think the best way to do that is through launching excellent products like our staking, which is coming out very shortly, and marketing them very heavily and making a lot of noise in the space and being super aggressive on social media and in Telegram and in all the channels that you expect a project to be in. I think you have to be there making a lot of noise, and hopefully people, the traders come and the investors come and drive liquidity that way. But yeah, it's a long-term thing. ETH, I mean, certainly didn't start out as a #2 market cap.
That's a good point.
It got there over time. So
right, and they waxed and waned, as you no doubt will, with your own volatility in time. But essentially, what we also hope, I can't speak for you, but for any startup, I imagine that they hope that as more liquidity comes in, as more users come in, and as more traders come in, more stay. That's the big thing I'm looking for also as someone that's more objective in this space, is that I don't want to advocate for the short-term shill, to FOMO people in so that we can raise the price and then get out. That's not the idea for a quality startup. So once again, that liquidity should also couple with education and a very long-term mindset. So let's explore the rest of the world. We know that you're focused in Africa. We know that there's genuine uptake and interest there. What about other regions? Is Ferrum tapping into the market in other regions where perhaps you can replicate something that you're doing in Africa?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that, because when people often ask about our business model, and it's not just focusing on Africa, as great of a market as that is. It's actually expanding and replicating this approach in other markets. So we've been blessed to meet various teams who we could potentially partner with in other regions. Middle East is something we're pursuing pretty seriously right now. We'll see how that goes. We're in the regulatory process there, so I don't want to get people too excited, because the regulators usually pour cold water on it. And more recently, we've been working closely with guys down in Brazil, in South America, where the conditions from sort of a macro financial standpoint are relative. They share similarities to Nigeria, and they think they're very optimized for the product that we have. So we're in the process of sort of they're forming a team down there and seeing what they can do. So we're always thinking long term when it comes to Ferrum. We're always probing these these opportunities. And it's certainly not anything that happens overnight, because we can't be everywhere. We need to partner with a team on the ground in those locations who can get the licenses you need, and partner with the banks that you need to have partnerships with,
Right.
and can grow the business on the ground. We can provide the technology, we provide the marketing, provide a high-level strategy and things like that. But it needs to be a collaborative effort when you're talking about the fiat gateway products. But yeah, I mean, they're in the works, and these are things we're working on every day behind the scenes. We don't really talk about them that often because.
I appreciate that you do, though, Ian, and also given that real grassroots movement that you've created in Nigeria, because you have real people on the ground and people with experience in that region. Often, obviously, even Nigerians. What I like about this is a bit like, if we use the analogy, dare I say, of McDonald's. That's a pretty bold move, but if we look at it as a franchise almost, if you have the experience and the savvy from the start, you can build this out. So the confidence will come with the success of these emerging markets and how you evolve in Brazil. That'll be fun to watch that play out. Now, in terms of affecting the overall metrics and the token, I want to talk a bit more about staking to understand the numbers. Why is this so exciting? What the announcements you're about to make in terms of affecting the overall value of not just the network, but the fuel itself, that token?
Sure. So I just want to be clear at the outset. This is ERC20 staking. It's not mainnet staking.
Yeah.
That will come later. We have basically nodes we call flag bearers within the network that will effectively stake tokens and receive certain rewards for that. But that comes later. Mm-hmm. We didn't want to wait. We wanted to get something out because we felt, first of all, our community deserves it. And secondly, we thought there was a gap in the market when it comes to pre-mainnet staking. And so the engineers at Ferrum were able to come up with something that I think is really brilliant, solves a lot of problems. Mm-hmm. It looks great. It's very easy to use. And I'm happy to explain it. So basically, you can sort of think of it. It's almost like a savings account. You put Ferrum into these pools, staking pools. So it's a group activity. And depending how long you stake, that's the longer you stake, the more you earn. I mean, that's as simply as I can put it. But there are a lot of nuances to it as well. So we have something called early withdrawals. A lot of staking will penalize you for leaving early. We don't do that. We say you're still going to get rewards. You'll get less rewards. You'll still get rewards. But the rewards that you forfeit are going to be distributed amongst those who stake the longest, staked until full maturity.
Right.
So there's sort of a gamification or competition element to it that I think will incentivize people to hold on, but we don't force them to do that.
I think that's important because ultimately you still want to improve that liquidity, to improve the overall robustness of your ecosystem. You do need to have incentivization to hold that token so that utility can emerge. Now, it's interesting that you said an ERC20 based, that pre-mainnet staking operation and plan. Well, are there any inherent risks in doing that before you move to mainnet and have, your rock solid staking system built in place post mainnet?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some risks in the sense that there's opportunity costs. There's some in the community who may say, you shouldn't have spent any time doing this. Why did you not, just build the mainnet right now? And to that, I would say, well, we have a full team of devs, 5 full-time developers, writing a smart contract and a staking mechanism and a really solid front end great user experience. That can be done by maybe a less senior dev on the team, and that's what we did, frankly. So. Okay. We were able to launch this. I think for the most part, the response from the community has been overwhelmingly positive. They're very happy we did this. Not only is there rewards for themselves, not only to reward those community members who are willing to hold the token, but also sort of as a bridge to that later mainnet staking. which I think will be very, very exciting when it does come out. But we didn't want to wait. We wanted, look, there's no reason we can't do both things.
Right. And mate, I can't see why those who are pro Ferrum and supporters of your utility model wouldn't be happy about this, because in this bear market, that also brings more attention to your ecosystem, to your token. And we've seen the way in which POS models have played out now. There's a lot more credibility being injected into this model, despite all of the debate. And currently, there's no question that that is a growing narrative, the merits of proof of stake and beyond. So clearly there's a lot happening. Now, I want to talk to you about exchanges for a moment. So, get ready to move and squirm a bit because it'll get uncomfortable. But recently there was that tweet that intimated that there, at the very least, there were some concerns raised about specific exchanges. So let me be clear on that. And questions were raised about problematic price, in the past. Now, I respect that you will only answer what you're able to answer given the context. But I want to talk more about the quality of exchanges, what's going on with the exchanges that you do work with, and what's the plan for the future as well.
Sure. So, yeah, certainly no one wants to wake up and see a DM that you've been sending to someone who you trust and known for a while on Twitter. Right. But such is the nature of crypto. And,
it happens.
It is what it is. We moved past. We learned some good lessons from that, and we're certainly not going to make those sort of mistakes again. But I'd like to think Ferrum has maintained and continues to maintain a great relationship with nearly everyone we've worked with in the space, and exchanges included. And there's certain exchanges that can do certain things for regulatory reasons and can't do other things for other reasons, so business or regulatory related. And no exchange we work with has ever really misled us or anything like that. I mean, there's certain things that happened and challenges that arose, but we've moved past them and we're sort of in this new phase now. So I'm happy to say we've listed recently on a new exchange out of Europe that I'm really think it's going to be a really big one soon, called Eaterbase. Okay. And we're closely with that team, and we're excited to see where that goes. And of course, as we continue on, new exchange opportunities arise, and we always explore them. But people need to recognize that Ferrum is a low cap project. We only raised 1.12 million. So,
so it's a long road ahead, clearly, because you've got to build that liquidity up.
Ask when this, when that, and well, some of those exchanges just cost $600,000 to list on. So I don't know why they would expect us to be able to do that anytime soon, absent a sort of a community.
Right. And let's dig a bit more also. You alluded to a few things and you're being very safe, and I can respect that. I would be in the same position if I was, the COO of Ferrum. But the reality is that obviously exchanges have their own strategies, their own agenda, and they're even their own means of managing liquidity supply and liquidity support. So that's always been something, obviously, in the mix when it comes to the current exchanges that work with Ferrum or support Ferrum rather. So liquidity also is always on the minds, rightly so, of those that are in that pre-utility support, those who put their money in. So we just want to make sure, obviously, as proponents of networks, that liquidity is always paramount, in that context when it comes to those exchanges that are aligned with your interests and those in the future as you build more capital to hopefully engage more with credible exchanges of the future. Is that your agenda as well? Is as you build liquidity, you will look towards what you can afford and what you can't in terms of expanding, once again, the exchange network to build out the liquidity?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you can never be satisfied where you're at with the business, whether you're talking about exchanges or customers or revenue, or in the case of crypto utility. I mean, you can never be satisfied with where you're at. We're certainly not satisfied when it comes to where we are with exchanges. Not to say that any exchanges are bad. We just want to continue to look for additional opportunities. Our approach had always, our mindset had always been, when it comes to the bigger exchanges with hefty price tags, that it would be advantageous for us to leverage our strengths, which unfortunately it's not it's not obscene amounts of capital, but it's actually a great community. Why not leverage the community that we have and demonstrate that an exchange would actually benefit from listing us? Because look at all these users we can bring. Look at the what we can do to bring to your exchange, right? So sort of approach, flip it that way.
So the gauntlet's being thrown down right now by you, Ian. You're throwing it down hard as a challenge to say, look at us. Have a look at the value we bring to the ecosystem. We might be small, but we're the real deal, and we want to build this out. So I think it does behoove a lot of the exchanges to take stock for a moment and not just simply support those that have the capital, because it does really disadvantage, I think, many that are really trying to come to the fore and assert real use case, real utility. I think that's the driver that I've learned from you in this conversation, is that perhaps the exchanges need to take more attention to utility itself and allow that to be a metric in their decision-making criteria to list, and perhaps not just focus on revenue and fees and the benefits they get from the listing process.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, I think one of the main challenges we have in the space is sort of removing the stranglehold that the exchanges have over everything. I suppose it's difficult because on one hand, the community wants you to list on these big exchanges, but on the other hand, they might not know everything that it takes or all the background behind it. And so you're kind of put between this rock and a hard place. But I think, if everyone focused on the things I think truly bring value, which is long-term value, I mean, not just short pumps.
Right.
And that's utility, that's community, that's great technology, that's products that people want to use. If we can all focus on those things and think long-term, I think this space from an altcoin standpoint has a real chance to make the world a better place.
I totally agree with you. Now, mate, just to be frank, obviously we talked at length about the fundamentals, the long-term vision, but also as part of crypto, we see the Pumpamentals for the short-term play. I've already seen, having had a look, at the strategies employed by Ferrum, that you do engage with key media. Is that going to continue so that you have the Pumpamentals to keep going, to garner the attention, to get the support, to get the hype? Because all that's relevant to get to that endpoint of real uptake. So have you got that marketing strategy down pat for those who are looking to support you, but with a few dollars in mind? Obviously, I don't ever discourage people trying to do sponsored content, but is all of that built into your model?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and we certainly don't begrudge anyone who is interested in Ferrum from a price standpoint. That's only natural. I mean, that's the space we're in, and sort of it's how human beings operate in many respects. So I don't have any issues with that. And in fact, I think a positive price momentum can actually be one of your best marketing tools. But yeah, we need to continue have our foot on the gas pedal when it comes to marketing. We have a lot of consumer-facing products that are in the pipeline and about to be launched. For one, Unifier wallet, which I think will actually end up being ultimately become our flagship product. It requires we have users on it, and I was speaking with somebody the other day, and they said, look, if you're not performing well from a price standpoint, people aren't going to give your product much attention, and for better or worse, that is how it is. Yep. And we accept that, and we accept reality, and we accept the challenge head on. So that includes a lot of aggressive marketing from now until
MainNet.
Yeah, you're never not going to see. I'm going to be out there. I mean, we're going to be engaged in the community. We're going to be marketing. It's never going to stop. Now it may become up, waves, up and down, but we're here, man. We're not going anywhere.
And I have to say, I do appreciate the candid conversation here, the frankness, because the reality is you understand the inner workings of the way in which the crypto space works. It's this unique sort of microcosm until we start to break more of those boundaries and barriers down. And one of the essential aspects of this is maintaining, that attention at whatever cost, with regard to whether you need to, perhaps you have more people who are sponsored content creators that are, again, I'm no longer someone who's judging that approach, because I do understand the imperative of that road to liquidity, that road to utility, and you're very much geared in that direction. And you're still also, very importantly, with a team that's building products in that process. So, mate, on behalf of all the people who want to know more, I really do want to thank you for your time today. Is there anything you'd like to mention, address, or just articulate that I've missed as we move forward towards 2020, when already we see substantial movement in the Ferrum camp, and we also see price movement, on the rise as well?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much. I love coming on and talking to you, Brad. I think you're one of the sharpest guys in the space, and extremely candid and honest, and I think that's what everyone loves about you. But yeah, in terms of Ferrum, look, we're just getting started here. I mean, really, we still just have one main product out. We have 3 more coming. We have a mainnet coming. I think those who are interested in Ferrum because of the price action and what's been going on recently in the market, that's great. I'm happy to have you in the community. But why don't you stick around and wait to see what we can do. There's a lot of substance behind the excitement. It's not just pure hype. There's a lot to Ferrum. I think we're solving people's problems right now with blockchain technology, and that's at the end of the day, I think we all should be here for. So yeah, happy to have the new folks on the ride with us, and we're just getting started. Absolutely, mate. Well, thank you so much for your time. Great message to end there. Come in, perhaps, because something brought you in that was more superficial, and stay to play in the deeper space of tech and beyond, and what it can actually do to revolutionize many of the people who are advocates for real financial reform. As you said before, this really is about a financial play. This is about trying to shift the way in which we engage with finance, and Ferrum is certainly part of that narrative and that action plan for the future. So, Ian, on behalf of Ferrum, thank you for making your time, and look forward to talking to you in the future. Thanks, Brad. Great to be here. See you, mate.